Good morning. Welcome. I've turned to Romans chapter 12, two very famous verses. I don't know if you've read Romans recently, but if you haven't, it's well worth a read. It's a very well argued and fascinating letter written to the Christians who lived at Rome, who lived in the capital city, in the heart of the Roman culture, the source of all the Roman thinking and behaviour under which the people of the time had to live. And he tells them all about how Gentiles and Jews are the same in God's sight, although the Jews were his chosen people, and Paul longed for all the Jews to come to faith. But his argument in Romans is that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And although the Jews would claim descendancy from Abraham and therefore favour in God's eyes as his chosen people, Paul argues that those who are truly the children of Abraham are those who are children of faith, not necessarily children of genetic descent. And he reaches chapter 12 and appeals to all of his readers to present their bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. I think he says this because in the Roman culture there were a lot of things that people used their bodies for that were not pleasing to God, and he says it in that way. But it's really saying, you've come to faith, you've dedicated yourself to God, you've believed Jesus died for you, you've come through to a true and living faith. And as a person of faith, as a follower of the way, as a Christian or a little Christ, as they'd become known, you are to live as he lived in the world, following his instructions and his calling, not your own calling or the calling of the world in which you live. You think about the disciples of Jesus. None of them pursued their original life work. The fisherman stopped being fisherman. The tax collector stopped being a tax collector. They followed Jesus and they learned from him how to be fishers of men. And Jesus changed their entire world and their entire life. And they gave themselves up to him, gave up to him all their ambitions and all their desires, so that they could do what he wanted them to do with their lives. And that's what Paul calls us to do. It doesn't mean that we won't end up doing things we enjoy. God made us. He knows exactly what will fully satisfy us, what will bring out the best in us, what we will best enjoy. He knows exactly that. He knows who our life partner should be, if he's got a life partner for us. It's not always so. There are some that God has called to live as individuals before him, as members of his fellowship. But it was the second verse I wanted to get on with, and I've nearly used 4 minutes to talk about that first verse in Romans chapter 12. But verse 2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world." And the word here, translated world, is actually the Greek word from which we get eon, age, the period of time in this world, not this world as in the flesh world. He's talking about the age, the cultural age, the eon to which the people belonged, who he was writing to. I've got the Amplified Bible here to help us. It says in the Amplified, "Do not be conformed to this world, this age, fashioned after and adapted to its external and superficial customs, but be transformed or changed by the entire renewal of your mind." Paul is talking about the age. Just like Jesus when he said at the end of Matthew's Gospel, I will never leave you, I will be with you to the end of the age, the period of history in which we're living. Not rather than the world, as it were, in a different sense. The fact that it uses this word aeon rather than cosmos, which is the word used for the world, or the entire physical world we live in. He used a different word here. Have a think about that. The age in which we live here, the 21st century. The 21st century has introduced thinking and ideas and behaviours that didn't exist before. The 21st century has introduced technology and, it's astonishing how much has changed since the year 2000. And even if you go back 20 years beyond that, you're going before mobile phones existed or were easily used, before the enormous storage facilities that we have, before the internet. We're now in an age that has completely different abilities and different pressures, and all the social media and all of that is all new. It's a new age that we're living in. And just as Paul had to write to the people of his age to say, don't be conformed to the thinking of the age you live in, he says the same thing to us. Do not be conformed in your thinking to the age in which you live. Now, I don't think that's saying don't use the facilities that are available to you, because Paul used the facilities that were available to him in the Roman Empire age in which he lived. It was a marvellous age. He had ease of movement. He didn't need a passport to travel right the way across the empire. Because of the peace of Rome that ruled, he was able to write in a language that everybody understood, rather than having to translate his writings into lots of different languages. He used the advances of his age to facilitate the gospel, but he didn't conform to the thinking of his age. That's something to think about today. Are you conforming in any way to the thinking of this world, which is different, where it's different to the thinking of the scriptures? That's a deep thought. I like to get you thinking. I'll see you again tomorrow. God bless you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.